Are we good to start? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sarang Bondre, Vice President, Capgemini Financial Services. We just finished the inaugural sessions and all. It was quite interesting. The topic that we got it today is on new age cyber threat and fraud prevention. Today we are driving into a critical issues that top of mind of business, government, and individuals alike: cyber age threats and fraud prevention. The digital landscape is evolving, and so the tactic of cyber criminals. How can we stay ahead of this threat, and what strategy are effective in preventing him? To discuss on this important topic of today as well as tomorrow, we have distinguished panelists joining with me in the panel discussion. Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. As we embrace the digital transformation, the rise of cyber threat and fraud is constant challenge. From ransomware and phishing to AI-powered attack and insider threats, the landscape is becoming increasing complex. So let's start exploring what the new age threat look like. My first question, I'll request Mr. Rohit, CTO HDFC Life. What's your view? What happened before cyber attack happened and after cyber attack happened? And what's the motive behind that?
Yeah, so I think the challenges before us are innumerable when we are looking at a new, in this new age, especially when we have the cyber threats which are getting more and more complicated with newer set of technologies that are coming in. I think the first point is identification. How do we identify that we have been threatened or we've been compromised? Organizations take days, if not months, to identify that they have been actually compromised. That's the first part of it. Second is, what is your crisis management plan to handle a situation like this? So how do we handle the crisis management part of it? That is extremely important. The first stage, most of the organizations that I have spoken to, is denial, right? Half the time you tend to isolate it and look at it in a different form and manner. Second is when you try to locate the actual leak or an actual compromise. Then you start looking at the CMP, the crisis management plan around it. And post-crisis management plan, what are your remediation steps, short-term, long-term, that you need to look at, right? This is an entire journey which you need to live in probably a few seconds, right, yeah, when it happens. And how do we manage this is extremely critical as on the war front, if I may use that word, as on the war front of cybersecurity. That's extremely critical for us. To manage this, I think we need to be constantly aware of our posture from a cybersecurity standpoint. We have to be aware about what the compromises and leaks are to be able to identify that the posture has changed, right? And invoke a CMP, a crisis management plan as and when required. So those are extremely important. Short-term measures, I think most of the times we have in our mind some decision trees which are built in terms of if this, then that, and then these are the 3 things or these are the 5 things that you can look at. But in real time when it hits you, you are almost mind frozen. Yeah. So I think it's better to keep the decision trees there written somewhere. So it's not only you, it's the entire team which understands this. Second is the team which goes through this has to be identified not at the time of when you reach this kind of a compromise thing. it has to be identified much beforehand. So the team is completely aware about what their roles would be in this kind of a situation, and then take it up from there.
Absolutely. I think that's very important point. Most of the time banks are in denial. They are not even aware whether they got attacked or not. So it takes time. I'll move back my next question to KRC. KRC is a senior vice president, Yes Bank. As a financial institutions, you rapidly adopt digital solutions. So do the cyber criminals also. They are becoming more and more smarter in attacking methods and all those things. In your perspective, what are the most sophisticated threats that bank face as of today? And what are the institutions like you take the preemptive actions against them?
Yeah. Thank you, Sarang, and IBEX for having me here. Hi all. The juicy sector, if the cyber criminals want, is the BFSI sector. Banks are the targets for them. Not only you have the entire meat for them from a perspective of taking the credentials, but there's a finance also involved in it, right? It's what is in it for me. So every day we see a lot of new age threats coming in, right? With AI being powered, now AI generated threats are becoming more and more. The deep fake calls, the so-called new digital arrest which is going on, not everyone is aware of that it is fake. There's nothing called a digital arrest. Your account is frozen if you don't immediately act on it. So they are coming with various new age kind of threat models, where you actually trap the unknown guys. A lot of education keeps on going to our end users, customers, etc. There's a lot of credentials available on the dark web, right? People use that. They buy the data. They use that. You don't change your passwords, and you just leave it. Many a times you don't have two-factor authentications enabled properly, right? You just leave it like that. So constantly we are threatened with new age threats. Now what do we need to do? You need to be always on your guard, because if you put 1, 2, 3, the hackers are like always 2 steps ahead. Whatever you do, they know how to break it, right? As Rohit mentioned that you cannot be in denial, of course. Banks, they don't have the option of denial. The regulator is watching very carefully. There's nothing to be hidden from that. You need to have the right partnerships with the right, and you need to have the right teams, right tools implemented, and also use the tools in the right fashion. Just buying the tools doesn't help you. Just having the teams doesn't. How constantly you are able to mitigate the threats is important. So we constantly evolve. Every day we learn. Every day new age threats keep coming. Yeah. So that's how it is.
I think that's very well said, because the theme of this event is AI, and definitely with that, a lot of things are getting evolved. My next question goes to Mr. Suchendra Kumar, Chief Compliance Officer, NAFD. As a AI automation is a double-edged sword. Like AI and automation are revolving fraud detection, cyber securities, but they are also introducing new vulnerabilities in the system. How is your organizations leveraging AI in its securing those things? That's the first, securing the framework. And the other part is, what precautions are necessary to prevent AI-driven threats?
Thank you, Mr. Sarang. So AI nowadays is a buzzword, and when we do automate our processes, even if any company is sending these products, it's AI enabled. So the cost of the product is go a bit, at least 20% higher than what it was. But what actually the AI is doing and what actually AI is, we don't understand. Common people don't understand. Even in the technology or in a BFI sector, if we assume that everybody understands what AI is, what is the pros and what is cons of using AI, that is lacking. There is no law available here in India. What is good AI? What is bad AI? AI we use in automation for fraud detections, where volume of transactions are there. cybersecurity threat, just to predict the cybersecurity threat, just to scan the anomaly in the system. So these are the things where we use AI, but at the same time where it can be used for the benefit and ease of the operations, particularly in the technology side. At the same time, AI is a double-edged sword. If the training of the relevant model of AI is not proper, if it is not being checked regularly, or AI can be subject to the adversarial threat attacks, data poisoning. If your data is poisoned, then also AI is going to give you the wrong input, wrong output. If the model itself is not working properly, or if the model is manipulated, so that is also going to give you wrong results, wrong alerts. You will be beating behind the wrong alerts. You will not able to get the exact what is happening in the system. So when we talk about the fraud detection, cybersecurity threat analysis, or even the anti-money laundering transaction monitoring, all these three places, the use of AI is, it gives a lot of ease, and organizations, particularly in the banking sector, we are able to analyze thousands of transactions in a second. So AI is sitting on this. One side is analyzing the threats through its predictive analysis. In fraud detection, predict the fraud. The fraud could happen, or at the moment when it happens, you get an alert. We need to act on the alerts, or if there is a fraud prediction by AI that needs to be analyzed properly. So we need to have the first thing, which we need to have to rule out these three drawback of AI, like data poisoning, or model manipulations, or adversarial AI threat attack. We need to have a governance in place, how AI is going to work, how much data is exposed to that, what is happening to the alert, whether the people who are handling the alert are properly trained or not. So we need to have a proper governance framework to use how we use the AI. Then the another consideration is that we need to have a zero trust factor when we are dealing with the AI. We cannot compromise with the identity of the person who is analyzing an alert, or we are passing the alerts just as it is. So governance framework and the zero trust, these are the two very key, critical and important factor which needs to be followed for all the organizations who are being exposed to using the AI and ML.
Yeah, so I think governance framework is very, very important to analyze and check that. I think my next question goes to Dr. Sriram. Is working as a Chief Executive Officer, Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. Sir, you are working with regulators, you are working with a lot of fintechs and all those things. This compliance framework, say for example, compliance framework often lag emerging threats. How can we regulatory bodies and institutions collaborate to create a more adaptive policies?
Yes, thank you for the question. I'd like to thank IBEX first of all for inviting me here, and it's a privilege being among so many distinguished people on the stage as well as off the stage. Well, compliance is very interesting. For example, the industry standards, we should harmonize with the regulations. Okay, so if you were to take just something like IoT security, you will find that in the past 3 years alone, some 6 to 7 standards, industry frameworks have been released, standards have been released. So, as a result of this, what is happening, it's become, number one, difficult for people to catch up, okay? So that is the first thing. First, people need to understand what those regulations really mean and how to comply with them, how to really put them into effect, into practice. So, one thing is that an engineering approach is required. For example, you want to do privacy. You want to implement privacy by design, privacy by default. Then you need to go into privacy engineering and PETs, which is privacy enhancing technologies. Otherwise, you cannot implement it across the length and breadth of the organization. And also, to those questions my distinguished panelists, co-panelists have highlighted many points, incidents and all. So even if you are really hacked, things like homomorphic encryption and several other things, that is, maybe the hacker will get only encrypted data. So he will not be in a position to really use it really well. So first thing is a good dialogue is required, okay, among the different parties. So that should include the 5 pillars, which is the industry body, tech industry. The second one is government at all levels, central government, state government, law enforcement agencies, defense, policy making bodies, all of these. The third is academia and R&D should be involved definitely, because they need to add those depth and understand what the theory and all that is, motivation is behind these regulations. The fourth one is user enterprises. That means all these banks and all the other user enterprises which are there, the larger fintech ecosystem and all, BFSI segment, all of these people, they need to be involved in this dialogue. And the last one, not the least, is collaborations. In the sense there are industry bodies, especially international bodies. Yeah. It is possible that many other industries have really adopted and many other countries have adopted and done. For example, let's say GDPR, that came in much before our own DPDP. So you do well to learn from their practices, and we need to have that, foster that. So engineering approach is one. Secondly is these dialogues and all, and the frameworks, what we're going to do. And we have to rely on one thing. One is we would go with normal operations and the compliance. But then there is a third leg also, innovation. How do we do that? So how do we field test all these new ideas which are really helping in compliance, like PETs, privacy enhancing technology? You need to have sandboxes to be able to test them properly. And privacy related measures will help a lot, because you need anonymized, pseudonymized data really, which enrich data, which can foster all these innovations to happen. Otherwise, you don't have real data to work on. Synthetic data also, that field will grow. So I hope this addresses something.
Absolutely,
briefly.
yeah, absolutely. I think you have touched on a very valid point. Collaboration is very important with all the bodies. Leveraging the international bodies like GDP and all is also important. Sorry, you want to add, Rohit, something on that?
Yeah, so I think very well said by Dr. Sriram, but cybersecurity is no longer engineering.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity is behavioral scientists.
Yes.
Cybersecurity is statisticians. Cybersecurity is actually, economists at some point of time as well.
Yeah,
So it is it's no longer a uni view of, it's a multi-dimensional, and
absolutely.
we'll have to have multiple dimensions for solving the current cybersecurity issues.
Problem. Absolutely.
No, I absolutely agree with that. What I meant was, at a base level, it needs to come down to operations and all. After all those are factored in, and then we do that, because policies finally need to be built into the system, baked into the system.
Absolutely.
So that way more automation and all can happen, which can, otherwise it is impossible to deal with the size and scale of the threats that are happening. Yeah.
So I think we heard from Rohit, we heard from Dr. Sriram also, and the fellow panelists. I think my next question goes to you, Rohit. You heard about those things, collaboration, cybersecurity, new age and all. Rohit, you are working as a chief security officer with... Abhishek, sorry. Abhishek, you are working as a chief security officer for one of the global bank. How, working with a global bank, how bank like you collaborate with various financial institutions, regulators, and cybersecurity organization to combat with that at a global level also, not in India, but also at the global level? We want to hear it from you.
Yes, see, being into a multinational bank, which is present in more than 80 countries, yes, it gives an edge and advantage that you bring in intelligence from those 80 countries. The market landscape in every country is different. The regulatory landscape is different. The privacy aspect is different, and you can bring this intelligence to India. The only challenge remains is managing the expectations, tuning it down to the Indian context, and then probably presenting the product to India. Coming to the cybersecurity front, yes, a fat organization can obviously afford the sophisticated tools like EDR and whatever. But I believe this may not be seemingly possible for a low-cost organization or which is operating on a low margin, because there's a high competition in the market. And cybersecurity is your input cost, obviously, to the product. The technology may be a driver, but obviously cybersecurity is always seen as an insurance to which you only pay the premium. You have to die to claim your insurance. So that's how it is. Like you need to be breached to measure your efficiency of the cybersecurity tools you have employed upon. Having said that, I believe the majority of challenge from the DPDP perspective, and as Rohit was mentioning correctly, it takes time to even recognize the attacker. So ideal state is like the world average goes on 297 days to identify an attacker, the presence of an attacker into your systems. That still remains a challenge. And then there are threats like known, which you also know, the world also knows. Known, unknown, that means the world knows, but you are sitting like a dumb or in a state of denial that this is not happening. And then the unknown, which means the world also doesn't know it and you obviously doesn't know it. So the challenge is the last part. There are breaches on the second part wherein you do not accept that there was a vulnerability and hence I was breached. But the third part is more challenging when the entire globe do not have a solution for something, and then you while invest your money, but you do not find a solution. And that is where the compliance and the governance kicks in. So if you are able to comply to the regulation, you have robust governance mechanism. So as Rohit has correctly highlighted, your crisis management plan. So it should not be a cyber security management plan, it should be a crisis management plan, because the attack is not on a CISO or a cyber security division, it is an attack on an organization. So it should be a collective responsibility, and that's the reason it should be a crisis management plan rather than a cyber or CISO management plan kind of. Having said that, I would also like to add on the customer awareness segment. While you have best of the technology, best of the people managing the organization, but the challenge is like the people who are using it, and this goes to the audience as well. I believe most of the people having here must be using their mobile banking apps. Now, having their mobile banking integrated to the UPI, having their credit cards saved on the e-commerce segment, how many times you feel the banking was at fault when your cards were compromised, or the UPI channel gave you a toss that the transaction could not be performed? There's very likely that you will doubt a bank. But the challenge is there are multiple ecosystems through which the bank works. There are multiple APIs, there are multiple channels through which the products are offered. If I name, especially from the insurance sector, there are multiple platforms through which you can buy an insurance. You are submitting your data. You never know whether the data is reaching to HDFC or not, for an example. But the challenge is like, this is very difficult to verify if there is an effective collaboration is done or not. So while this is named in cybersecurity, but this is more in a fraud risk management kind of segment, and wherein we need some able people who understand cybersecurity and fraud both in the compliance segment to understand, yes, these kind of frauds are happening. The customer education, till the time your customer doesn't get educated, having robust defense mechanism to safeguard the organization goes for a toss whenever the attack has happened, because end of the day, while the human is the strongest hold in the chain, but it's all the weakest link in the chain as well.
No, absolutely. I think knowing and unknowing, I think it's very important to have those preventive measures. I think let me provoke our audience also in terms of the attacks. This very important topic we are talking about. Do you know the number of cyber incidents has been reported in 2023 in India? Reported. I'm not talking about not reported. There are many places where, as Rohit mentioned and all the fellow panelists has mentioned, many people don't know whether they got attacked, they got robbed or something like that. Or they may know that time it might be a month or two. But if you remember, the data has been published. In 2023, the reported number was 1.1 million recorded in India itself. Wherein if we can see from 2024 perspective, the number has jumped multiple times. In 2024, the number has reported 1.7 million. It is reported number as per the regulatory body. I think it's a big number.
So you're talking about the organizational cyber attacks, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask the audience, has anyone faced a personal cyber attack? Can you elaborate? Take the mic.
So this was around 2 years back, and it was my father's bank account details that probably got stolen. And this was SBI, if I have to name it. One challenge that I faced was, I kind of tried and tracked the transactions. I called certain stores where, those details were used to kind of track it back. But as rightly mentioned, I think there are multiple dimensions. I tried to report it with the police. My report wasn't lodged. So I completely agree, there are reported cases, but I'm sure there are, numerous other cases that go
Absolutely. Yeah.
unregistered. Yeah.
There are many people, awareness is not there. There are many people who didn't even report to those things. Luckily, you track the record, the transaction and all, you come to know. But just imagine the people who are on the senior side and all. It's very difficult for them to do. So
What
thank
do you
you
think
very much.
if it could have not involved the money part? Question goes back to you. Can you hand over the mic, please, to the lady? There. If it could not have involved the money aspect to the attack, do you think you will still notice it that someone has stolen my name or something? Unless this has happened?
Absolutely not.
So, see, money is one-time loss. The identity theft is a lifelong loss. So it is equal as a death of a person to an identity theft, because it is difficult to prove I have not done it. And our law says you are guilty unless proven so, kind of, while it was written differently in the Constitution, but it works differently to nowadays. So it is very difficult to prove if your identity is stolen. And nowadays, in the sense of social media, there are many challenges going on. I'll name one challenge, which was the sari and the bikini challenge. So initially on Facebook, they launched a sari challenge, wherein people wore sari, dressed up and clicked the photos. And then there was a bikini challenge. Few of the ladies were in bikini. Again, the pictures were clicked on the Facebook, social media. And then it was AI to mix and match, which was the lady identified in sari and the bikini same. And then the data got sold off. It was very difficult to explain that my purpose of sharing those pictures were different.
Yeah.
Because while the action speaks louder than words, but if the words do not have a mouth, they are open to interpretations. So identity theft, what I wanted to emphasize, is much more challenge than the financial one. It may impact you more than a financial segment, because let's say you go to a hospital, you have an insurance, and by some fraud, your insurance has already been claimed. How do you prove it that you were not the same person? So that's the challenge.
Absolutely. And I think just to add, Gen AI being the theme today, there are multiple videos doing rounds, why you shouldn't upload your child's photos on social media, because, there are technologies that can predict how they will look when they grow up and things like that. So definitely, I think a lot of things to learn and implement.
Yeah. But thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for sharing. I think my next question goes to all the fellow panelists. We heard about the identity theft and all. We are growing digital economy. The volume of transaction going very high. Identity theft is also rapidly growing. What's your view, the role social media and digital literacy play in preventing cyber attacks, fraud? That is one. Because what is the biggest challenge at this point of time we are facing ensuring cybersecurity in India, because we are a rapidly digital growing economy? So,
a few things, I'll keep it very brief. Mobile, okay. So there are such variety of mobile phones and many of them are not guarded. And so many versions of Androids and plethora of devices and applications. That is one of the biggest source, even for privacy and all, that's a very big threat, okay. So that is one thing. And of course, ransomware and malware are the biggest ones. Phishing, another major area. The traditional ones remain. So going ahead, there will be, as IoT and all increase, the number of devices explode when you log into a network. The danger of, with 5G and all that coming in, the danger of rogue devices and all those connecting also will significantly go up, for which device fingerprinting and all that will increase, meaning that devices themselves will need to be identified. So normally one device is equal to another device of the same these things. But if you go down to the nanocycles, the clock, I mean, it will be, let's say 10 milliseconds is 10 milliseconds or so. But if you go down to the nano level, the clock skew at nanoseconds level will determine, maybe start giving. So if you crunch many such variables and do machine learning, probably it will, say for example, there is a smart bulb, just emit a little pulse of data. With a smart TV, maybe it buffers a lot because it's buffering a movie or video content or something. So all of this crunched together may give a device fingerprinting will become very important. So you know which devices have. Because ordinary ones like IP addresses and names can be spoofed easily by hackers. Okay. So I've just thrown some light on a few things. I'll just like.
Yeah.
On cybercrime particularly, I'm doing a PhD on the cybercrimes. What I've seen that even across the globe, first that we do not have law which protects you. If there is law that's not sufficient to protect you. Nowadays, the biggest problem for general public to prevent from the cybercrimes. So even the Government of India initiatives, there are a lot of initiatives. Reserve Bank of India is like giving ads how like you should be prevented, what measure you should take when you are getting a call that is call from Tanzania and your mobile is going to be disconnected or you will not be able to use your bank account in next 2 hours or your some relatives got accidents and hospitalized even within just next 30 minutes is going to be operated, you need to send some money. So these kind of frauds, a victim are like general public who do not know what to do, and I know personally at least 20 people who was a victim of even digital arrest and these kind of things. Knowingly that somebody, your very close relative, has got accident and needs to be operated in next 30 hours, otherwise the person will die, you will not think anything and just you transfer the money to the person. Nowadays, the sufficient laws are not available. What could prevent this or minimize this? It cannot be like eliminated. Cybercrime is going to happen. It has to happen because we are not upgraded ourselves in terms of the technology, how it is going to work, how it is creating a threat for you. So the one thing is that we are lack of professionals who can be act as a preventive agents. Second thing is the biggest thing which is actually can add to your prevention is awareness. Awareness, as of now, I can say, based on whatever data information I have across the globe, that only the key thing for a cybercrime prevention is the awareness. So, if anything happens to banking, in your banking account, there is a provision by Reserve Bank of India that you need to report it within 14 days. So all the banks have their cyber insurance. They, in turn, there is a possibility that you will get your amount back. If banks are not listening, you can complain it to Reserve Bank of India on the Reserve Bank of India website portal. So awareness is the key. What I can say for everybody, you go back, read the RBI directions, you read the media directions. They have issued a booklet also on awareness of the cyber crimes. So that's the first general public which I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, yeah, KRC.
So I think they made my life simple by giving all the perspective, especially Abhishek, right? See, it is the responsibility of every person to make sure it is secure. We keep educating the users, campaigns keep going on. Mr. Amitabh Bachchan keeps on telling it on KBC that UPI is safe, but be safe. These are awarenesses which happens. See, most of the banks give you DIY, do it yourself kind of thing in your mobile. Switch off your, limits, get your limits down, switch off your tap, whenever not required. These are the things which you will have to do it by yourself. It just takes few seconds. You can change your ATM pin just online. You don't need to go to ATM. Yeah. Keep changing your net banking passwords. These are basic things, right? Don't use your, log into your net bankings on unsecured Wi-Fi's. We all know about it, but people don't care about it. I'll just log in. I will just do whatever I want to do. Yeah. From which Wi-Fi you're logging, from which PC you're logging, they don't care about it. But ultimately, you cannot blame the bank also, right?
Yeah.
That I have lost money and kind of, what have you done to safeguard yourself? As he rightly said, you can report, you will get the money back, but that's not that, you cannot just sit back, relax and enjoy. It's your money. You will have to be very, very safeguarding yourself. What devices you are using, as he rightly said, you upgrade your OS, upgrade the applications. Most of people don't do it. As the lady said rightly, the people target the senior citizens. One message comes, they go bonker, Educated people go bonkers. I'm sure everyone has, watched Jamtada.
Yeah.
Classic one you should watch. Everyone should watch that. So these are basic things. I think it's everyone's responsibility to make sure we are safe and secure.
Absolutely. I think everyone has to own and take that responsibility. How I am going to protect. It's my money. How I am going to keep all my devices, OS, everything up to date. It's
Just
very, very important. Yeah.
One thing I would like to add, I think majority of the people, particularly educated people, are using smartphones, whether it is iOS or it is Android. We are giving acceptance to whatever comes, we push yes, permitted. Do you know what they are taking? So there is saying that if you are getting something for free, means you are the product they are selling. So be cautious while giving acceptance to anything. Think before pressing yes. And if you get to know that what are the risks posed by using the smartphone, if I give you a list, I can bet nobody will use the smartphone. It is that risky. Even if you switched off a phone, you are being tracked.
Yeah.
So you need to make your location off. Think 10 times before accepting anything as yes. So that's the key, what I can say. Thank you.
Yeah, I think many times people even didn't read the disclosure and all those things. I think it's more of the ignorance, more of those things. Yeah. Sorry.
Let's agree to the fact, although we listed it, what should be done, what not should be done. Do we myself implement it? The answer is no. Because the technology and the life is running fast-paced. I don't have time to read 360 documents to see the agreement and all those things.
Yeah.
Keep yes, do my transaction, go off. That's it. I don't bother. It bothers.
Yeah.
Let's say if my salary is 1 lakh, the transaction is of 3 lakhs. I know it will take a hit for 3 months to me to repay that. Yes, then I'll definitely lead it.
Yeah.
So it majorly depends on your risk appetite, how much you are capable of. If it is a 10 rupee note which is dropped on the road and you are being told, you may say, okay, theek hai, koi baat nahi, I'll see it. Absolutely. If someone tells you that you have lost 1 lakh, it just dropped in your briefcase.
Yeah.
You may want to consider coming back from the airport, missing your flight, but to collect that 1 lakh. It's all about the risk appetite, how you see the terms and conditions, do the checks and balances before your transaction.
So that's
Rohit?
one thing on 10 rupees, that is just 10 rupees, how does it matter? I'll recommend you to just watch the movie just released of R. Madhavan, Hisab Barabar. It will tell you what is the importance of the 10 rupees.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Rohit, you were saying something.
Yeah, so at a philosophical level, I think the way we are leading our lives, money is just a database, right? Yes. So if money is just a database, we'll need to ensure that we protect it well. And the idea about the consent, I must tell you that I have a fantastic idea for any entrepreneur. Please create a consent inventory for all the people. Right? Like you have a password manager, please create a consent inventory.
That's coming actually. That's coming. Privacy.
Yeah, that's good.
Engineering that is coming. So
you at least have a track of what consents you've given, what where you have agreed to, what you have agreed to. Yeah, thank you.
So
Absolutely.
I have just a couple of things to add. See, since this is about enterprise security, while individually, yes, we do conduct a lot of programs and all these things. Now, because of the scale and sophistication of attacks, they need to take some basic measures like having antivirus and all those. Those all are there. If they don't have it, then they're not willing to pay for it. They can go to Cyber Swachhta Kendra and download a free one and all. But at the enterprise level, at least, you must have very, very thorough processes, right down to even how you are going to retire your printers. Let's say there's an old printer, you give it away. that thing has a hard disk inside it. It can really retrieve a lot of past data. So security by design, privacy by design should be there. And we should view security, in general, it's a mindset. We should view security as something inherent and part of the system. If you were to take a natural analogy of a very complex system like human body, you would find that security is right there, and you have white blood cells, you have immunity system, and they don't go to sleep and say, once in 6 months I'll wake up if there is an audit, and everything is fine. They work 24/7 all the time. So security is not a goal, but a process.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think thanks a lot for that. I think we are moving towards the end of these things. But while preparing for this session, when I was having such a distinguished panel member, I was going through some of the articles or the results. I was surprised to see the numbers. In 2024, 1 in every 3 Indian was met with this cyber fraud. It was quite shocking. It's quite important. It's day of need. As a last word, I think as our fellow members has mentioned, technology can evolve, bank can put up all the technology, everything will be there, but it's very important to have self-awareness. It's very important to have acceptance that, okay, rather than having a denial, we should accept even the institution. A strong collaboration is also required between institution, regulators, and all the technology and fintechs. It's very, very important. I think with that, I thank you very much for everyone for joining this panel discussion. Thank you very much for lovely audience, and thank you very much. Sorry, you got some questions? Sorry, yeah. Okay.
We have time for just one question. We're already running late.
I have a question.
I request everyone to take it offline.
Yeah.
We're running about 30 minutes late.
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is Dr. Anita Raman from ICFI Business School, IFHE University. I have a question to Mr. Rai. As you were mentioning, when you become a product, but when you are getting something free, and when we are saying that, at least please make some tick marks as to what you are doing, what you are giving your consent. But unfortunately, the companies, I mean, the databases that we get or the applications that we get, we got to allow our cameras, we got to allow our contacts. Unless you move forward, they are not allowing us to use the applications. So could you throw some light on it, please?
Let me take that question, if you allow me. Yeah. So I'll give you a technical answer to it. When using that application, yes, you want to use the application because of some of the reason. I'll not go into that reason. But you want to use that application, give the permissions whatever they want for that moment. Immediately log into your Google account or your Apple account. Once you have completed your scheduled task on that application, remove those permissions. Every time. Do it every time. So what I do is, by default, my everything is off. Right? I allow. So nowadays, there's one more feature. While using this app, you want to share a location, kind of. But all I'm trying to tell you, if not daily, at least weekly, review the permissions you have given on mobile phone. Nowadays, we spend more time on mobile than my laptop or TV. Everything is available on mobile. Do a weekly review, how you review your child, whatever he has studied the entire week. So do it for yourself as well. Just take 5-10 minutes, but you'll be sorted then.
Yeah, that's the answer. Just to add, whenever you are allowing it, you can make it like only while using the app, right?
Yeah.
That is.
That's right.
So that's the answer. That when you are using the app, it's allowed. When you're not using the app, just off all the permissions. If you go to the Google account, you will be able to see that how many sites you have logged in. You remove that. As in, not history. For example, you are logging to your site using your email account. So you need to go in the settings of the Google and just you can remove all. If you are using, then go log in and then remove it.
I did that and my tagging didn't work for...
I'll tell you an we can take it offline.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My personal experience is that when we start talking about an impending Dubai trip, within half an hour you get updates on the latest Dubai tickets. So it's hearing you as well. So Google has got this uncanny ability of hearing you as well. So
That's how they make money, otherwise they'll be out of business.
yes, absolutely.
You become the product.
Yes. So that's a wonderful panel. Thank you very much. Yeah, please.
I think curiosity at every stage is very important. While having an ease of operation or when something
That's right.
Take the self-control on all, and we have to own those things as ARC has mentioned. Technology can be there, but until unless we are going to own those things and make sure that awareness, it will not be always.
Developing the character of the restraint.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, distinguished panelists.